Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our golf DFS show. My name is Mike. I'm joined with Kyle. We'll have Jordan catch up with us in the second half tonight on Tuesday, May 24th. Got a great episode. We have our PGA Championship recap, the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial preview, and honestly, probably spend most of the 30 minutes or so here talking about golf. It's always fun to spend a little more time thinking about the major championship golf we watched last weekend. Kyle, I'll give you a disclaimer as we get started. I have my 1 month newborn old son asleep at my feet here. And so if there's any shrieks or cries, it's all you, man.
You mean it's not coming from Jordan this time?
I know. See, if that's the nice thing is he's joining the second half, so we don't have the wailing that we normally get up front. But um, yeah, I mean PGA Championship, dude. Did you watch enough golf this weekend?
I did. I took a lot in. It was a fun event. The wind and the weather played out as we most thought. I would say. I think I saw it was a 1.5 to 2 stroke advantage for that AM PM draw versus the PM AM draw. Uh, so there was some good takeaways, and yeah, it was a fun event. Felt bad on the Sunday collapse though, man. I like my underdogs.
All right, well let's hit on a couple of storylines because I think you sort of alluded to a few. I think a lot was made of the wind and the weather that was, they were going to have at Southern Hills and in the wet. I mean, first of all, the temps were like crazy. Like the fact that it was going from 90 degrees to 50 degrees, like that's not insignificant to deal with. The golf course is probably going to play, a full club different in spots just because of the temperature. So that was certainly something to deal with. And I'm glad that you brought up the draw because I do think the draw did factor in, and I think I personally was able to take advantage of it in some spots in DFS, including a Thursday showdown that I did where I loaded up all six guys in the morning and I ran away with the contest. So I think there was an edge to be had if you were chasing the wind on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, there was, and we've talked about this both on the pod and offline. Uh, I got a little bit bit on the players thinking I had the draw, and that one ended up flipping on us.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going all in with one draw or the other draw on this, I did a little bit more skill stacking on the GPP contest. So I didn't take advantage as much as I could have, but it is worth noting JT won and came out of the quote bad draw. So I definitely think it was more of an effect on Thursday than it was Friday, in my opinion. I guess I haven't seen the data behind that, but
Yeah, so JT coming out of the tough draw, I mean, I think that was making people reminisce back to the players when he did play. I think it was the players or was the Arnold Palmer where he did have the good round in the wind, and people were saying, "Wow, JT really demonstrated his ball striking prowess, being able to shoot a good round in the wind." And he really channeled that. I mean, I think it was maybe coincidental that our model had a lot of the Thursday AM, Friday PM guys at the top. So like naturally we were loading up on the good draw. And I probably didn't have enough JT, and for that reason, I think he kind of did fly under the radar, at least for me. And he ended up capitalizing on in a tough draw. So
and maybe you're right. I had a lot of people were on the wind draw, right? So I thought it almost got a little too much uh, airplay, a little too much as a talking point. Like people were already talking about it on Monday for weather
mhm.
forecast on Thursday in the Midwest. Like, come on. So I think that was probably part of the reason I didn't go all in from a hammer perspective, even though it still looked to be pretty apparent Wednesday night. But yeah, I had a decent amount of JT. Obviously, had a lot of Will. We were all over Cam Young, who is up in the model. I had an outright on Cam Young, so I'm
Same.
continuing my trend here of hey guys, I bet outright finish in top three, but can't quite get there. Uh, had a lot of Mito, had a lot of Rory, had a lot of Fitz. So overall, it was a great week for the model, a great week for my DFS account. Yeah, and I enjoyed watching the event.
So a couple more points on the play. So where does this rank like for Justin Thomas? So there was a lot. I think there was a lot of feedback that like, hey, let me know when JT wins a Masters, a U.S. Open, or a British Open. Like at the end of the day, this is a PGA, and I don't know. Watching the golf tournament, I felt like it played tough. The conditions were tough. He came back from 7 strokes and shot one of the best rounds of the day on Sunday. And so for all accounts, I would say this is a major championship, and it should count just like any other major championship.
Oh, fully agree. Uh, of the upper echelon type guys, I would say JT was definitely in that second half of the pack if we, group that top 5 or 6 before this. But there, he still has a little ways to go to reach that all-time level, but why is he like I feel like he's on the about to go off here. We talked about it
He
the
could
last
be.
2 weeks. We talked about it more 2 weeks ago than we did last week of, hey, he's due to win. Well, hey, he won here. And usually as a player, he gets hot. He stays hot for an extended period.
The feedback that I heard was that what sets JT apart is his hunger to win golf tournaments and to win major championships, a lot like his good buddy Tiger Woods. And that there might have been a couple of guys in the late groups on Sunday that were just, happy to be there. And the happy to be there attitude is not bad. That's probably, frankly, that's hard to not have that. But even Mito said it in his post round interview that he was just hoping to make the cut that week. And you can't help but maybe think that you give up some of that edge. Does that let those demons creep in on Sunday? And that's where the double bogey comes from. We could talk a little bit about the collapse, but JT did everything right to keep himself in the conversation. And guys like Cam Young didn't. You can't have a 3-putt double bogey on the back 9 when you're in contention at a major championship. JT didn't do that. And there he goes. He gets his chance to win and he strikes.
The crazy thing about Cam Young specifically is he was the steadiest one of those,
He
the
was.
last 4 young guns, I would say, over the first, 12, 13 holes. Like he wasn't, Will was scrambling.
He hit the ball great. He missed so many good birdie looks, and
Correct.
that's what came back to bite him because when he did have his slip up, he didn't have the cushion.
Well, and to be honest, even JT did. He missed, he missed 15 and 17. He missed makeable birds or makeable putts
Right. He
to
did.
get even, or sorry, 15 and 18, to make it even, to put the pressure on even more. Turns out he didn't need it as much. And I did hear on one of the pods I was listening to a good talking point too, as if, and granted, you would never know this, but it's a fun little hypothetical to play. If somebody goes and tells Rory, "Hey, you only need 5," right? Like,
What did Rory shoot on Thursday?
well, yeah, but like he missed so many putts, and maybe he was, like if he knows he only has to get to 5 under, as opposed to thinking at that point in time he had to get to 6 or 7. How does it turn out differently? It's
I
just
mean,
it was crazy finish. It
it
just,
was.
yeah.
It was. I mean, Rory, he was 5 under after the day on Thursday, and he birdied 4 of his first 5 holes on Sunday. Like, how is he not a factor? And so he's probably kicking himself a little bit that he let a very gettable tournament get away. But I mean, Mito Pereira, obviously a guy that we've had in our model. We've been playing in DFS all year, especially in some of the non-marquee events. He's been up there in salary. He's been an $8,000-$9,000 player, having a great year, especially ball striking. No surprise. We were all over him. He was a top 5 play in the model. Had a ton of him in DFS. And so I guess the question for you is, as a fan of underdogs, did it break your heart to see him crumble? Whether it helped your bank account or not, did it break your heart to see him crumble on 18?
I was, I wasn't going for him as much as Will. We went roundtable last week on who we
You
wanted to
did.
win.
Yep.
From a non-financial perspective, I said Will. So that would have been cool to come true. from a financial perspective, Cameron Young would have been the best for me to win. So those were probably where my bigger rooting interests
Mhm.
lied, outside of just wanting to see a good finish. But yeah, I didn't want JT to win it, man. I would have taken third out of all those. Like JT's, he's got his dubs. Don't get me wrong. I like JT. I have no issue with him. It's just I like to see something different. I want to see that first W.
Fair enough. Well, it was kind of cool to see Joaquin Neiman basically become a fourth broadcaster half a Sunday because they wanted the inside look at from one of Mito's buddies. I don't know that he was planning on that. He hung around for a long time, but gave some good insight. It's just sort of a new era of the PGA Tour. Like we talk about this like week after week. We would have never seen that in the Tiger Woods era. Just somebody's buddy sitting in the broadcast booth and talking about the players coming down the stretch. So thought that was a nice twist.
I only caught parts of it because I had a sound up and down during that point. But yeah, the parts I did catch, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was added a nice emotion to the broadcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hit on a couple of points to wrap up here with regards to reading the green and the PGA Championship. Of course, our listener league. This got a little bit of Twitter going among our loyal listeners. People seem to be frustrated with JY Sodi and him just cleaning up week after week. I think this is now first, second, first for JY Sodi. And, just to pour salt on the wound, he then admits that Tommy Fleetwood was his last pick on a hunch because the money worked. and Fleetwood, what did he shoot? Did he shoot 67 on Sunday, kind of out of nowhere, and I think sealed the deal for JY Sodi.
I'm gonna pretend he just heard our discussion the week prior, right, at the Byron Nelson, where we said, "Hey, don't take Fleetwood here in the Birdie Fest because all of his strokes gained have been around the green." So he that stuck in his mind. So when he saw Fleetwood, he's like, "Hey, we're looking for guys good around the green. Fleetwood's been good around the green, and that's my pick."
Well, that came to fruition as he wins yet again, and there might be a mutiny at some point here to put an end to this.
So you said he went first, second, first in the
I think
last 3
so.
weeks. Okay, you know who has also placed the last 3 weeks?
I think it was you.
At third, first, third. I mean,
Yeah, but I don't think people. I don't know. I don't see the same people in the listeners coming after you
well,
as one of our pundits
we established goodwill by finishing last for a while there.
for like a whole month. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I had a lot of DFS in play this week, and so I thought I'd have a little fun with my lineup. And I finally brought it to life. And we talk about this week after week. I finally went an all Cameron lineup: Cameron Young, Cameron Davis, Cameron Tringali, Cameron Smith, and Cameron Champ. And then, like you mentioned, I threw in Scotty Scheffler Cameron on top of that. And it came up well short, but I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be a good story if it didn't. A couple of those Camerons played pretty well. So it wasn't that far off.
I enjoyed it when you pointed that out and said, "Hey, go look at my lineup," especially the Scotty Cameron piece. Like, that was clever.
All right. Well, like we said, we had a very good week with the RTG model. I think we said 75% of our top plays, our 25% mention share plays made the cut. Obviously, a good number for us. We had a ton of good finishes. We tweeted out 5 top 10s on our top plays infographic. So again, lots of good content. Reed Fowler, once again, one of the favorites of the pod. Suggested Cam Smith and Cam Young as his core plays, and again, those are two of the Camerons that had a really nice week and was a great place to start your lineups.
Little fun anecdote, because we've talked about this in the past, but there wasn't a golfer who scored 0 points on the weekend. Do you know who that was? I had him in my lineup as a pivot.
A golfer that scored 0 points on the weekend. I'm gonna guess it was Robert McIntyre.
You're correct. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have him in a lineup.
I believe in our model, we did have a golfer that scored less than 10 points on the week, and I think that was Daniel Berger. But yeah, there was some rounds out there that I missed. I didn't even see Daniel Berger's name at all. But yeah, even on the weekend too, there was a couple of guys that struggled. As far as landmines go, Corey Connors, Alex Noren, Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler. How much of those guys did you have? Those were some of our higher picks that I think maybe burned us in one or two spots.
Yeah, luckily they weren't right at the top of the board, but they were there. And, definitely some I was looking at to pivot for some of my GPP specifically away from ownership. Cantlay definitely hurt from that regards. Noren thought it was going to be chalky, and at that price point decided to try to eat some chalk. And that one, he had such a good round on Thursday and then just gave it all back and missed the cut on Friday. It's just a shame because I had so much Mito, Will, Rory, Fitz, and Young, and somehow just didn't have that magical combo in a GPP with those five and getting somebody else good in there to, to have a top, a top 100 or something like that. But overall, great week. Yeah, you had
Jordan. Jordan, right? He requested the late night Wednesday bet Connors over Zalatoris in a head-to-head matchup. Yes. I don't think that one finished very close.
No, but Jordan did hit, and this is the first time I've ever placed one of these, but without, so he took Will without favorites, and of course, JT was in the favorites, so that did come through in our hypothetical betting for out-of-staters.
You can't count that an outright since the odds aren't quite as good, but probably the next best thing at this point. So, any final thoughts on the PGA Championship? It was obviously always fun to get a little action on the line around a big tournament, and I certainly look forward to the U.S. Open here in a couple of weeks.
Heck yeah, coming in at us in 3 weeks, but let's keep the good times rolling and keep winning with the sheet.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Real quick, Kyle, what is in your glass tonight?
So I did get some Minnesota brew. I found in a liquor store in a nearby bigger town a little multiple pack of Surly. So I have Blast Beat Sultan IPA from Surly Brewing, kind of the OG of the brewery scene up in Minneapolis.
Okay. I have not bought a lot of Surly lately, but it's sometimes a good throwback.
No, I haven't in a while either, and don't think I've had this particular one, but it's not because their beers aren't good. Let's just put it that
way. I decided to open an other half tonight. I try to keep a few of these around, and this is Green Power. It is a Imperial IPA, and it is fantastic as to be expected. Anyways, let's do this. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk about the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial. Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to do the second half of the show for the Colonial preview. Welcome Jordan to the podcast, fresh in from League Night. Jordan, we just got done bragging about your Will Zalatoris without favorites pick. Anything else you want to lament or comment on for the PGA Championship last weekend?
Maybe you want to highlight how wrong you were on Cameron Young, perhaps?
I was wrong in him on the podcast, but then I ended up taking him in a lot of places, and he helped me win a bunch of money. So, yeah, I mean, he did completely fall apart on Sunday afternoon.
The 3-putt double was inexcusable. Inexcusable.
No, yeah, I talked bad about him. Even I've got a neighborhood league, and I took him, and a couple of guys listened, and they're like, "What? You talked so much shit." I was like, I had to. I'm sorry. But no, you didn't touch on my almost call of the tournament with my Mito outright. Oh, had him at 80-1.
Mm-hmm.
I was cashing that check all day Sunday.
So I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but so I'm in Iowa, and so I had a old betting account with not DraftKings Sportsbook. I had found a couple dollars and cents left in there, So the last thing I did Wednesday night before I fell asleep, I did throw an outright on Mito as well. It was very small relative to yours, but I had a little guy. But damn it.
Yeah. That would have been a nice little hit. The Will coming in second to JT was a nice one. And also that I don't know why I bet on the winner won't come from the final group. That turned out nice.
You just knew it was going to be some newbies that were being chased by some experts behind.
Yeah, well, we talked about it last week, right? Of the PGA Championship, like the winners aren't the Justin Thomases of the world. If you go back and look, most of the last 10 years, and we almost had it, right? Mito or Will or Cameron Young, and then JT, JT just curb stomped all of them.
Yep. Yeah, it was a good unexpected finish, I guess. But I guess now we're gonna move on to the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial. We will have our listener league available, so please, I think we say this after the majors every time. If you only played the majors, please come back and play every week with us. It's the only way to build up your bank account so you can go spend it on the U.S. Open when we get there in a few weeks. So I hope to see a few more folks carry over. So Colonial Country Club, Fort Worth, Texas. Jason Kokrak won here last year. I think this tournament does have invitational status, so it is a little smaller field, 122 players, top 65 in ties making the cut. So I would expect that to mean that 5 of 6 in a DFS lineup making the cut is probably going to be more common than usual. So making the cut is important, but also making sure you get some differentiation and get some guys maybe lower owned near the top. So with that being said, Kyle, I know we have probably 60-70% of our experts in. What does that mean with the RTG model and who's rising to the top? I think I'm seeing Jordan's number one favorite player as an early leader here for us.
Yeah. I'm gonna own this amount of him right here.
All right. So on that note, Jordan's gonna have a whole lot of this guy. So far, it's leaning very, very heavily on form. So you'll hear a bunch of past winners here. Justin Rose leading the way, $7,700 at 55%, who Jordan is going to have in every single lineup. Followed by Jordan Spieth at 50% mention share, Abraham Answer at 50% mention share, Kevin Na at 45% mention share, and Brian Harmon at 40%. So a little bit of everything from price points perspective. Rose at 77, Spieth at 10,004, Abraham Answer at 9,300, Na 81, and Harmon at 78.
Remember, what was that tournament a couple weeks ago where I asked the question, like, what's the highest Kevin Na has ever been? And it was like $2,000 higher than this right now. Like this
is more appropriate for Kevin Na.
Yes.
That was Mexico, I believe.
The tournament it's got a much better group than I was expecting. Right,
it's a great field for after a Masters.
Right after a major field. Yes, that's the word I was trying to think.
Do you know why, Kyle? Like, is it? I know sometimes it's proximity. Sometimes it's sponsors or other commitments. I don't know if you saw anything about why the field was so much stronger than normal, but I'm sure that the invitational status helps with the smaller field size, helps keep the better players there.
Proximity can't hurt, right? We're back in Fort Worth. Since they shuffled around the major schedule after COVID, maybe that's part of it. Guys play this and then take 2 weeks off before the U.S. Open, or play this, take a week off, play.
But next week is the Memorial, so you're going to get a good field there too. Although maybe what we'll see is the guys that aren't playing this week are going to be playing next week, at the Memorial, and maybe we won't see some guys here. But all right, so who do you think? What's your core? You mentioned the guys at the top here for the model, but kind of give me the highlights of who you like this week.
I am going to start with Spieth in a lot of lineups. He is 50% mention share, 27% or 27 on an MPI, so a little weak on the MPI at this point, but we'll keep a close eye on that over the next couple 24 hours as everything comes in. Great history here. This historically has been his best putting course on the PGA Tour. And outside of putting lately, as we've talked about, Spieth has been awesome. So if he's going to putt anywhere, it's going to be here.
So do you think this is I will back you on Spieth this week, and my hunch there was he plays great at the Byron Nelson, finishes in second, gets everybody's hopes up for a great showing on a course that he should have been a great course fit at the PGA, underachieves, throws everybody off. You know he's going to come back with a top 5 this week. I want to be there.
Yeah, I think he'll garner quite a bit of ownership too, but I'm going to be a part of it. So not scared away by that. I'll be on Spieth. And then after that, I'm going to go down board a little bit. And this actually would have been the 6th play in our model is Harold Varner III at 35% mention share. I like me some HV3 this week. He's got a solid MPI and actually someone I'm looking at on the outright market as well. So once we save a little bit of money, my last play, I'm going to go down to Victor Hovland. More expensive again, coming at 10K, 30% mention share at this point, a real strong MPI. And I just think he's a good course fit. You know, we need to be accurate off the tee here and good on approach. So I think he's someone that performed even a little bit better than I expected last week. His only area he really struggled was putting. So I'm hoping he pops this week. What do you got, Jordan?
Nice. There's been a theme the last couple of weeks. I've been focusing in that like 75 to 8K range. And it's happening again. We've got some really high mentioned guys that are right there. Brian Harmon. I love me some Brian Harmon. Last week the course fit was kind of garbage because he can't hit the ball very far, and he still finished 34th, right? Made the cut, did what he needed to do. So I'm all in on Brian Harmon this week. You've mentioned Harold Varner again. I'm going in on Harold Varner as well. And the other one, Maverick McNeely. So he made the cut last week, didn't play great, finished at the bottom of the people that made the cut, but a 78 on Saturday, the opposite of moving day, will do that to you. So I think I just looked through my whole lineup that I've got made. Everyone made the cut last week, right? So I don't have any of the top. I don't have Will. I don't have any of the guys that played really well last week, but I have a bunch of guys that played decent, made the cut, and now it's a much easier course this week.
So Jordan's leaning heavily on form. The model's showing us a lot of horse for the course guys, and I support all your plays there, Jordan. A lot of guys again a lot of love, especially McNeely is real high on our mentioned power index on the MPI side. Another name I wanted to throw out because it's a stat I heard today on BetSperts podcast that I thought was kind of crazy. But if you're looking to save some money, you can go down to Rory Sabatini at $6,700. He's only got 15% mention share, but the fun stat about Sabatini is he's made 11 straight cuts in the state of Texas.
You know what cut he didn't make in the state of Texas? The U.S. Open qualifier. Because he played like crap.
I don't think he didn't he? I thought he did okay. I mean, he didn't make the cut, but he didn't play terrible.
I mean he didn't get in the top.
Jordan, I'm glad you brought that up because did you guys go back and look at the final qualifying scores and who made the cut? It was like 10 guys that have PGA Tour wins, and I think the qualifying score was like 7 or 8 under for 36 holes. I mean, it's just, I know, Kyle, you brought it up that morning about look at this field might be better than the field at Vedanta, but that's what final qualifying is like for the U.S. Open. And I know people have this dream of like, hey, I'll give it a shot. I get through local qualifying. Maybe I'll make it. But then you go and you show up and like Matthew Neesmith shoots, 64 in the opening round. And you're like, okay, well, never mind.
Yeah,
So
that's, you know what that feels like? That feels like the Live Tour. Should just be US Open qualifying. That's, the Saudis can make their money televising the US Open qualifying.
So I'm glad you brought that up as well. Not necessarily the Live Tour part, but the US qualifying. Oh, speaking of the Live Tour, I text this to the group today. Jordan's boy, Dick Bland, is going to the Live Tour. Come on.
Yep.
So first off, Matt Neesmith tore it up. Do we have some love for him this week? Like coming back from Monday.
Is he in the field?
Yeah. He was talked. Well, he's talked about him on the pod, so unless they were off.
He's in the field.
But
this isn't like those Colombian Mexicans, Kyle.
The other guys that were in that field that it was like Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Hadwin, Kurt Kitayama, like these are guys that we've been playing in DFS events this year, and they're just beating up on amateurs. And like I said, that's how a lot of guys get into the US Open. And you just forget that when you hear the guys at your club being like, oh, US Open qualifying, or did you hear so-and-so made it in? It's a cool experience, but it takes a lot of luck to get all the way to the final deal.
So that was going to be my second question for you. So you mentioned Adam Hadwin. He lost in the playoff, so he didn't make it out of that Fort Worth qualifier. Are you familiar with how that whole process works, Mike?
Just the qualifying process or the playoff?
So like this, can Hadwin go to another qualifier now, or is he?
Once you get in one. So like what you do is, right, I think you go and sign up for a local qualifier and you get to do one. And if you make it through, you go to whatever section, they call it final qualifying now, but you go to whatever sectional qualifying you're assigned to, and you go and play, and the 13 guys or whatever that play there get through.
Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna ask Mike his plays if he's got.
I'll give a couple. I know if you're watching this on YouTube, you see I've gone into full dad mode here, but a couple of other guys that I thought at the top from a value standpoint that I like. So I told you that I'd back you on Spieth, but Sebastian Munoz has been playing great golf, and we now get to get him back maybe on a little easier track and a little lighter field. He's shown a ton of firepower, so I might like him as a value play at 7,700. Then Chris Kirk, too, has been pretty solid as of late at under 8K, getting decent love, 30%. So I would look to both of those guys as value plays, but I'm going to be heavy on Spieth this week. I don't want to miss out.
So one name we haven't discussed yet that is right up there too at 30% mention share this week is Colin Markawa. He is a little lower on the MPI side, but he is getting some looks, so just wanted to mention him. And then I got to let you guys know, I have, I think, 4 outright bets in at this point. Oh. I have someone at 100-1 that I'm getting pretty excited about this bet. Not getting a lot of love in our model, but I have an outright on Patrick Reed.
Ooh, it's tough to cheer for a guy like that, huh?
Not at 100-1, you can cheer for him.
Pretty good course.
Are you going each way on these, Kyle? Did you back them all up with top 20s?
Most of my other ones I did. I got to go back and look if I did that with Reed yet, but yeah.
All right. Well, what about tiers? I haven't taken a look at tiers. How are things shaking out there?
Yeah, glad you asked, Mike, because I wasn't really hadn't done that yet either. So let's talk.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live. So we got to talk about tier 6 though, because we have Maverick McNeely, who Jordan highlighted, I think is a great play this week. You have Patrick Reed, who I just brought up. You have Kevin Kisner, who has great course history here. should be a great course fit. You have Cameron Tringali. You have Ricky Fowler, who had a pretty good week last week. Chipped in 4
Kyle,
times.
Mike might slap you through the camera for leaving.
I mean, only one of those guys finished top 13 last week at the PGA, and you haven't talked about him yet.
Well, there's a reason I was going in this order, gentlemen. And then last but not least, we have Tom Hoagy. So I fully back the Maverick McNeely play, 30% mention share, 98 MPI. But if there's ever a Hoagy course, I think this has a lot of comps to Pebble, where Hoagie's played really well in the past. You'd be accurate off the tee, good on approach. I think this could be a good one.
And where did Tom Hoagy go to college?
How do you do the Horns Christian?
Went to Texas Christian in Fort Worth, Texas. So he's basically playing a home game here. This feels like an almost lock.
Wow. Hopefully he does better here than when he's a match play specialist.
Yeah. Fair point. That was a disaster.
But Kyle, so you just convinced me, Kyle. I had non-Homa in my lineup in RTG, and now I took him out. I took Hoagy because I saved a bunch of money, and now Hovland. So now I can blame it all on you if I don't do well.
Yeah, at this point, one of us just needs to beat JY Sadi. So
yeah, agree.
Yes, Jordan, we did spend quite a bit of time on that. There's a force coming for that gentleman in the RTG Listener League.
Yeah. What's worse than a Hawkeye beating you, Mike?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Oh wow. That sounds like a Hawkeye joke.
Your hat. I saw your hat, Kyle, and I was like, oh, we can't have that representation here.
All right. Well, I know it's not as exciting as the PGA Championship, but I think there should be a pretty solid field at Colonial. So I want to make sure that you catch a little bit of that. Anything else you guys want to hit on before we wrap up?
Go Patrick Reed.
Go Patrick Reed. Jordan, maybe in the next couple of weeks here we'll get a swag update back on the pod. I feel like we've been quiet for the last 5 or 6 episodes, and frankly hasn't been much going on. But
yeah, no, they usually take a big break after, President's Day, Masters anniversary, and then they kind of chill out for a while. So it's probably end of mid to late June is when it picks back up. They did a Summer of Swagness last year. They'll do their big Ryder Cup March cover of the year thing here sometime soon, hopefully. But yeah, it was good. I represented out on the course tonight. I got a couple compliments on my pull tab driver.
That's surprising. All right. Well, look forward to another good DFS week. Of course, you can find our content on YouTube, on our Reading the Green channel, any of the major podcast platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS. Join the Listener League, play golf DFS with us. We'll be back in a week to cover the Colonial results and preview the Memorial Golf Tournament. I'm going to go feed an infant, and we'll see y'all later. See ya.